If you knew how much I loved you, if you only knew, you could lay down every reason for not being you. If you knew the love behind you, every time you spoke, you'd let each word flow through you like a painter in mid-stroke. If you knew the way I see you when I look into your eyes, you'd never need to question whether loving me was wise. If you knew the way I cherish everything you do, then you could start believing that all of this is really true. If you knew the love, 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 if you knew the way I cherish everything you do, then you could start believing that all of this is really true.
Okay, blessings. This is Jaya, and today this is Hindsight 2020, laying the foundation for living heaven here and now. And so it's a bit of an online workshop and an introduction to Goddess Alchemy, what that is in a very general sense, and what it is to be laying the foundations of living heaven here and now for you, while being able to use some things. Hindsight, as they say, hindsight is everything. A lot of times when you're going through things, you're not aware of what's happening, and then surprise, and then things come in later on, and you have much more of a perspective and an awareness in things. And a lot of it's where you're looking from, right? If you're looking at the same level at the valley, things appear one way. When you hike a little bit up the hilltop and you look back down, you can see so much more, right? And then the further up you go, the more the landscape changes. And you can see where you were standing, you can see where you were, and you really then get a sense of, my gosh, I really wasn't aware of too much of anything. I didn't know that there was a lake right over there, and I didn't know there was a home right over there. It didn't seem like there was anything over in that area, right? So in that same kind of way, when your consciousness raises and your frequency and vibration raises, you can see more. And when you've gone through some things and more information comes to you in whatever way it comes, you have a lot more to go on than when you're in the middle of something. So for a lot of people, for a lot of us, we've been in the middle of something very big. This change, this consciousness that is evolving, right? If you've heard of these prophecies, right, that are here, that in these times, the big changes that are coming to humanity, and potentially to have a more enlightened, awake, aware, these times, even to the point of what we're going to talk a little bit about, going into these golden ages, right? That it's these times that has been prophesied, that we're going into these golden ages. The thing about it, though, is it doesn't just happen. Just like in our own lives, transformation does not just happen. Unless, the only way that it really does happen is if you are absolutely pushed to the extreme, right? And then it'll happen. And some of us continually call that forth. And or when we're complete in our area, we go and we start working in other areas where there is still a lot to be revealed in terms of light. So at the very end, I'm going to share an opportunity to participate in a class called Experiments in Consciousness. It's a 12-week online class, and I've taught this over the years for on and off at different times for the last 2 decades, right around when this book first came out. And it's light, simple, fun exercises, creative exercises that we do each week, and yet it's linked with a really deep transformational energy and consciousness, which has been the hallmark of what I've done these last 20 years. A lot of times it's when people are either in crisis or they're very, very aware that where they are is really not where they're meant to be. They're going through some kind of transition. So it's such a time of transition that there's a very universal aspect to it. And I'm making it even more universal in terms of framing the personal transformation with what's going on in the world and how those are mirroring each other, and being aware of things that are going on in the world. So not to get angry and fight and resist them, but to realize the mirror that they are inside, and to inspire, and to motivate. Because let's face it, if everything's just fine and easy, we tend not to really be, at the end of the year, we can't even believe what's changed, or we can even get in our minds and say so much has changed, and someone else will see you and say, didn't see that so much. So what is it that our minds can be so active and engaged in what we would think of as our spiritual journey? And when that's happening, sometimes it's that the mind is coming in to control that journey. So we want to be in a place where we're really aware of what's happening, right? So this work, at the deepest essence, it's always, every session I do, every group, everything that's come in, right? Every class, it's starting with intention. And it's really asking what is true. It's so simple at the end of the day, because it's really only ever asking what's really here. It's not trying to change life and make it something that it's not. It doesn't have a whole layout of this is who you are, and you're sort of in this cage, in this prison, and that's all you are, and you're just kind of going from that very narrow frame. But it's really, really being able to ask what's true and get to that truth, that essential truth. Another word for that is dharma, our essential purpose, our essential truth, our essential being. What is it that we are? So, getting a little ahead of this, today going through these questions: who, what, why, where. Who, what, where, when, why are you? Some of those don't make sense in the context, right? But we're going to go through those. And like an investigative journalism, my high school class, right? Never went beyond that. But these questions always stuck because of the transformational work that I've done. My master's degree is in spiritual psychology, not in journalism. But when you go and you investigate who are you from that deepest essence, right? So starting out with that, who? The Who song. Who are you? Who. So, oh, we're getting a little ahead. I forget that that's coming next. So when you think of who are you, when you tune into that space, oftentimes you'll get the, the list of the roles that you play. Yeah. And then you might go a little bit deeper as to, well, who am I really? Like, who are my real things that I really love? Who are those? What are those things that makes me uniquely me from a bigger context of my roles? And then there is something beyond that. But when you keep going and asking that question, this is the foundation of everything. Who are you? And when that question when you ask it deep enough, because you haven't really totally arrived at the full answer, and you do not stop asking that question until you arrive at an answer that sort of explodes from the inside, and explodes is in some way it might be a quiet explosion, but there's an actual event in consciousness that happens, and it is something where the energy literally runs in a different way after that. And so that who are you, these are times where you can come into that space and that question is answered. And then that takes you beyond the point where you're in a place and you are on your spiritual path, or you're living your life, and it shifts into something, and it blossoms into something that is so far beyond the limitations of the personal. And yes, you still have the reference of the personal, you still have a physical body, you still have the awareness of preferences that you have, you still have the awareness of the roles that you play, and those things that identify you as completely unique. And yet you have a much more vast opportunity to choose beyond those spaces as it's coming through in creation. And so we're going to get to that too, those distinguishing points. So the roles that I played, a single mother, doing some unschooling and coming out of a traditional education system, which fueled and sparked so much within myself to remember, and ask these questions. What is real education? What is it that a person needs to know? And again, realizing how unique each being is, and each time, and that it just contributed to everything that was already coming through me in terms of what was developing as my body of work, or how I was working with people. And it got even less and less systematic, and just kept going in a direction where it was more present with what was happening in the moment, and so much less about this is what a human being is, this is what everyone should know, this is what everyone needs to do, this is how everyone needs to act. And then you have that sense of uniqueness that begins to blossom, that the soul gift that starts to come through for each being to be able to reflect and be in the energy and the light of that. So even with the master's degree in spiritual psychology and huge amounts of different things over years at a spiritual community where people were coming in from all over the world to teach and So there's a lot that has been learned in that way. There's traveling that has happened and going into different places when the calling comes, and only when the calling comes, and that's a very significant part of things. Different from, I think that would be fun. I think I would like to do that. And again, there's not it's not wrong, you just see that it's limited. So all of this was happening for many years, started doing some just very small retreats, but getting more focused on that individual, what really can come through for a being. And then came Kali. So now we'll go to this slide. So a trip to India 3 years ago, which continues on, and after returning, you could say the initiation of a lifetime. Many initiations had happened previously. I came with a couple students and meeting someone who still feels incredibly significant in this unfolding adventure. And after this happened, though, there's a triggering that happened with a puja, triggering of energy, and potentially things that were also happening in the physical field. To this day, it's still not, completely clear how much was happening in the physical field. Some people thought that there was a substance that was given to me unbeknownst to me, and that's what created some of the things. Other parts have realized that there are the different dimensions of things, and a lot happened. And so I ended up leaving very soon, pretty much immediately, as soon as I could get on a plane, when this was really going. And I went back to LA instead of going to the place that was planned for me to go, another country, to return there, to begin building something with a longtime friend. And that friendship, everything was gone. Everything was just gone. And talk about homeless in the car. It's like it wasn't even my own car, because I had sold that because to go to the other country, so I was living in someone else's car. And that time, so the presence of the mother, because it was a Shakti Pith goddess temple. It was a Kali temple, but it also had Lakshmi. It also had Saraswati and Gauri and Ganesh, and the place that it was in, and what was happening, where I was connecting with the younger women, and I was connecting with people in that place, and the vision unfolding to bring people back to that place, to have this very unique and special puja, and especially couples. And the man that was there, the yogi, that we were connecting in such a huge way, and everything just crashed. And so as I was spending the night in the car between Uber drives, at night, and then, making it to a gym to take the shower and things like that, or the ex-husband's house. And, oh my goodness. And in my mind, I could, having such a hard time, because the women that were in the group, the students that were there, it's like everyone, nope, don't want a final call, don't want anything, and no, I'm complete. Isn't it wonderful? We've come to a graceful completion. And that's still coming in even this time. And it's unbelievable that would be termed a graceful completion. And that, this again, all of the years of practice, thousands of hours of karma yoga, of going into a prison, going in the hospital, going into juvenile detention center, going into working with kids in the neighborhood, the unprivileged kid, all of these things, and everything that was my whole life that I was immersed in. So I didn't have any other job or any other focus in my life except for this work. And being there as a teacher, often unpaid, all of that feels like that's the only thing that kept me going, and my body in physical form. And at night there would be this energy, this presence, this gratitude, and then there was also a lot of other stuff that was going on again, either spiritual attack wise or even on the physical plane. The bullying thing was happening. And I'm sharing all this not to scare you away from the path, but actually to say that there's just so much spiritually available right now, and to not have a fear that anything that is presented to you in the divine form, you can come through and you can come to the other side. And the fear of going there and of staying stuck, right? And of just like, I'm just going to eke out this little existence that I have, might not be a really good plan at all. And there might be consequences to choosing that, even though it would feel comfortable at this time and staying in a comfort zone with things. The things that are happening on the planet, we're just not here for that. Right? So those that know that place inside of the heart, that you feel the cry of the mother, right? And you hear that essence of the earth and of other beings of humanity, and you know you're here to assist in changing it, right? You really know you're here to change it. And that it's not a self-serving, it's not about how you feel, really. So if that resonates with you more, if you don't expect it to be really easy, if you don't expect it to feel good all the time, and if you do know that you are here for real transformation, this is really this path. So when I came back to India with another student this last year, which also went interesting, but it went very far and very deep, and there's a lot of gratitude for how that went and how far it came, and how much more of this essence of the goddess, which is not just only the pleasing and the beautiful and the creative, and we can dance and we can do those things, and then came Kali and her 10 forms and the Shiva Shakti, path of real transformation. There's a radical essence of freedom in it, and there's a radical essence also of service, and to be in a really open space to, how may I be in service to you, oh God, right? There's a real humility, there's a real openness, and being willing to hear what you don't always want to hear, right? But again, what's true? What's true? So when I came back, there was we were doing a Tantra class, and there was a Vedic scholar in a lineage of Vedic scholars, and his lectures were just, my gosh, the knowledge and the wisdom. And I was just, sitting there with, like, thank you, you're writing everything down. And at the end, I practically popped up, do you do personal sessions? Because he was an astrologer also. And so that is something that he was doing with people. And so in that session, he said, I'm so sorry. And one of the first things I think he said, I think those were his first words, with kind of an ashen face, and you've been so misunderstood. And that you are a guru, and not just guru, but of gods and demons, and that kind of freaked me out, being from the West, because, you means I'm going to empower demons, but that wasn't my question, because I know I don't empower personalities, right? So the question was really like, you mean, so demons, so you mean I can enlighten them, I can help them become enlightened? And he's like, of course. And so that that it's a different way of looking at things, right? And it would make sense, because one of the primary places of that karma yoga space was in the prison. And I never needed to know what anyone did. And I don't empower people with tools that their mind can use. It's all about awakening into what would be termed the non-dual presence or place. And so from that space, you're only asking what's true. You're only getting deeper into the truth inside. And those cities and gifts, if those spiritual gifts and those spiritual power appears, it only comes naturally when you're ready for it in the time that it's designed to come in, and when you can spiritually handle it. And having someone outside like a teacher is a very, very good thing in those two. Just like anything else, having power in the world, right? You wouldn't want to be in a place of a huge power and to not have the ability to handle that kind of power, and your ego would take it over and start to use it at its own, to fulfill its own desires and its things, and to get what you wanted out of it. And you can end up creating karma for yourself, and and a lot of pain and suffering for others. So to be in a space where you have that inner sense and knowing of what's true, and then have it reflected on the inner or outer planes with the teacher. So not just Kali showed up, but within this person, the student that came back with me to India with her most powerful form. So this is the grandmother form. And these are forces of nature. They're archetypal of the feminine. And this particular form is, oh, you said you wanted to wake up? and she's known as the most powerful in the bunch. And you'll wake up. It might be in a form that you didn't want, didn't expect, didn't think you needed, and it's like, oh, you're going to wake up, So that's her. And again, this transformational path for true freedom, for true awakening, and to be in the service that your soul in these times came to be in service to. Right, so Mahavidya, let me see what time. It's a very little small thing here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more. We're going to make part 2 in here. But so we'll split it into 2 parts. Mahavidya, goddess alchemy. So Mahavidya, that is the name for the 10 forms of Kali. And each one is absolute spiritual genius for transformation. Absolute. The more over this time that we've been in these different archetypal essences and have been meeting Kali in her different forms and engaging and sometimes embodying and channeling that energy, it's quite a lot, right? It's something you work up to for sure. And it's also profoundly just genius in these times where transformation of consciousness, I'm not sure if anything else, I know superficial changes aren't going to do it, right? Transformation of consciousness is really where it's at right now. And so for the feminine, this is what I saw a while back. It wasn't, because sometimes I notice when women, start going in and the ego itself can start imagining that it is the goddess and start fancying, oh, which goddess are you? Which one would you like to be? Oh, I think I'm this, oh, I had a thing happen and I must be this goddess. And it's again, you want to be in a place, especially in this place now, in these times, and on this earth, everything that's happening, and the Earth Mother herself, how strong the feminine is. You really want to be in a place where you're really honoring and respecting those extremely powerful forces of nature that the goddess is. And your own feminine nature is different than the divine feminine nature. To have the experiences of those things and to realize that But in this particular initiation and how women are built and how we have our brain, even with the corpus callosum, the part that runs through to the middle there, the ability to make all kinds of connections is larger in the woman. So that's the multitasking thing. And when you're at home and when you have the child and you're making things and you have to make a call and you have to go over here and water that, and, you know, in that space, it's a very multitasking space. And it's the 10 forms are actually potentially possible for each woman to initiate in and to have those come in and be met in a place, but again, within an energetic container and holding and really having the support where that is part of what this work is evolving into. Now, that's not in the Living Beyond Belief book, but that's that book, if this energy and this work and this living heaven, if that starts to speak to you, yes, I wouldn't say it's limited to Mahavidya. It wouldn't be limited to Kali, but to understand the nature of transformation in these times. So there's different goddesses, and Goddess Bridget for myself that she has also come in, and Pele, but from Hawaii. And so Goddess Bridget in the UK area, and even throughout Europe, and even in Africa, she really was known in those places. She's also a water fire goddess and of transformation as well. That's an essence of it, but a lot of creative energy. So what I'm noticing, though, again, this has been a lifelong practice, and with the guru chart, it's something that just has always been. And so there really hasn't been any other career, any other, primary focus other than my daughter when she was growing up and her homeschooling and all of that and everything that she was going through in a karmic clearing for an extended period. But other than that, this has been the only focus. And sometimes, 10, 12, 16-hour day focus. And so as these energies and forces and patterns, and then actual beings, can manifest as well. There's a lot that can happen. And it's not something that you want to dabble in. So we're going into all of this because this is ultimately where this work is going and what it is about, essentially. And to start out, there's core principles, right, that are in the book, and that in the 12 weeks you'll have a sense of if it's it's light, it's playful, and then it's also reflecting what's going on in the world. But you'll have more of a sense of really a potential, maybe even inside, that you hadn't realized. And you can see also if there is something that's engaging you, and if things are happening for you, right? You'll know that it's not a place where, gee, I don't really know, I can't really tell. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Okay, I think we're going to stop because the power just went out for a moment. So there's our place to stop, and then we'll come back to the what.
I've been searching for this love. I've been looking all around, traveled to the ends of the earth, never was it found. Now I finally see the truth that sets me free. The love I've searched for my whole life is here inside of me. If we knew the love, if we knew the love, if we knew we were love, if we knew the love, if we knew the love, if we knew we were love, if we knew love, if we knew love, if we knew